Hey, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. This time we're going to discuss the top 5 Shenron builds you guys can be playing in the current Dragon Ball Super format. So that is going to be a pre-Clash of Fates revolving around that format, and then I will talk about the end a little bit how this will change once Clash of Fates does come out, how this list might shift or change. So before we get into this video, a couple important notes. If you guys are new to the channel, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button would be super duper awesome of you guys if you enjoy the content. We do have a Discord server down in the description below. If you guys want to talk about anything Dragon Ball Super related, definitely check that out. And if you guys are longtime fans of the channel, checking out my Patreon down in the description below could help me out a lot and keep bringing this content that you guys know and love. And finally, we do have a giveaway that's running the entire week, all the way up until Friday. So definitely check that out if you guys want your free chance to win some free Dragon Ball Super stuff. Definitely check that out. Thank you guys for listening to that. With that being said, we'll get into this discussion video. So as everyone pretty much knows, Shenron is probably the most generic leader you could play right now. You can just play a multitude of different builds in it. A lot of people equate that to SS3 and call it the new SS3. While I don't necessarily consider this leader the new SS3, I made a video on that a couple weeks ago, but it is very, very generic and you can play a lot of different strategies in it. So I'm going to talk about the top 5 in my opinion. A lot of this will be based around my opinion, but a lot of it will also be based around results. I feel like whenever you do these top 5 videos or like tier list videos, you do have to incorporate some amount of results in. And then if there are no results, then you can use speculation. So this is going to be a combination of those two things. So at the number 5 spot, we've got the Shenron ANBU deck. So this can be built a number of ways. You can go the Buhan package, like typical, your surprise attack to search your red 5 drop. So you can drop that as early as turn 3. And it can be really nuts. I mean, a 30k barrier beater, it can have double strike, it can have critical, it can deal burn damage to the opponent, and it's incredibly hard to remove, once again, just because it has barrier. So that's a really, really big build you can play. And then you have the other build, which just focuses on the Ultimate Evil Majin Buu, which just tries to go through all your opponent's life in one shot, right? You drop a 60k triple striker that you can give triple attack, which will bring up to a 70k triple attack triple striker. And then if you have another one in hand, you can evolve it again, give it another 30k and another swing, which can just be 4 triple strikes swinging at the face, super duper tall, which can be really nuts. So the reason this is number 5 is, at least for the Ultimate Evil build, it's more of a one-trick pony deck, but it does have a lot of flexibility it can do with different Buhan plays. And if you are playing more of a pure Buhan list, your deck is still very, very flexible, but it is much more of a combo deck. Sometimes it can be hard to hit those pieces. Like if you don't hit the barrier, your guy is pretty easily removed. If you don't hit your 3-drop searcher, which anyone who plays Buhan knows that can be the biggest pain, is to not see your 3-drop searcher. You just run into really big problems. And the deck becomes a lot of different colors. It's a combination of like red, yellow, blue. If you're going to play the battering package, you need to play the yellow. So it can, kind of lose to itself in some points. It's not the most consistent build. And it hasn't really done too much in top cut scenes, so that's why it's at number 5. I feel like this is a good time to mention my honorable mentions for this list. They didn't make it on the list, but they are definitely decks to consider. So those would be the Ultra Instinct Goku Shenron deck and the Jiren U11 Shenron deck. So a little bit about each. The Ultra Instinct deck, which we are actually going to profile on the channel this week. It's really good. It's more of a one-trick pony as well, but different ways you can build it can kind of diversify it a little bit. But you are aiming to get to your Ultra Instinct Goku and give it triple attack on top of its already big triple strike and uncomboable effect. So it's just really good with a battering laser strategy, but once again, it just comes down to like hitting your pieces. This is only a blue-yellow build, so the colors don't matter as much, but it does come down to hitting your pieces and hitting them in a timely manner. So if you don't do that, you do run into a bit of a problem. And then you have the Shenron Jiren build, which in my opinion is a little more faulty than the Ultra Instinct build, because you have to wait till 6 energy. All 6 of your energy have to be yellow, unless you're going to try and child switch or world peace this guy out. And then the rest of the U11 deck doesn't really do a lot, unfortunately, outside of the Jiren going for game. So it is 3 unnegatable, unblockable quadruple strikes, which can be really, really insane, but just getting there can be kind of difficult. So those are the honorable mentions. Now we'll talk about number 4 on the list. Believe it or not, number 4 on the list is going to be Gogeta Shenron. Now, a lot of you guys that know my opinion on Gogeta Shenron, the card's absolutely broken. I don't retract any of that. The card is absolutely dumb. But in the current format, pre-Clash of Fates, this is one of the lesser Shenron builds, and it's for a few reasons. I mean, one being that Storm is the predominant deck. So where Storm is a prominent deck, this deck is not going to be able to thrive, because this deck does need to get to turn 5, even turn 6, turn 7 sometimes, to really get its crazy playoff, its broken playoff. But with Storm being the top deck of the format, that's just not going to happen consistently. You don't play enough defense to get there, and you can't pressure the Gotens off the board in the Storm matchup efficiently. Your leader can't swing, and you can't play overwhelms really well. So you run into a lot of problems there, and you have a lot of 110Ks in this deck. and a lot of extra cards. So you do have a big problem there. So for that reason, Gogeta 7 is going to be number 4 on this list. Number 3 on this list are going to be more Child's Wish based strategies, much like the blue yellow Shenron deck that is actually featured on my channel right here. You can check that out as well. So that's going to be more along the lines of playing lower drops, lower to the ground, and your top end is at all costs Vegeta. So still a 5 energy play, but you can get there on turn 4 with objection, or turn 3 with multiple objections. So that's kind of cool. You can get there a lot faster. But the rest of your deck is much lower to the ground. It's much more revolved around Child's Wish. So you've got like quick thinking Go Tanks for that crit pressure drawing a card. You've got Android 16 Hammer of Justice for the Storm matchup. It's actually a pretty good fighting chance for the Storm matchup because they really can't get over it very well. And then you've got like Explorer Bulma to restand and draw cards, and you play in the yellow package, so you do have access to Nimbus, you do have access to Bad Ring Laser, which a lot of Gogeta 7 builds don't have because it can get really clunky, especially when you're trying to fuse or if you have to tap out for a play. So that's an advantage that the Child's Wish at all cost Vegeta strategies have at the moment that Gogeta 7 doesn't. You can play lower to the ground, you can play those yellow strategies for those Nimbuses, you have a little bit better chance in the Storm matchup. So that's why I have that deck at number 3 in the current format. Number 2, now the spot between number 1 and number 2 was kind of hard to go back and forth on, but I'll give you my logic as to why each one is where it is. So number 2 is going to be Shenron Veggies. So this deck actually won the Latin American Nationals, which at the time of that event, this deck was not even on my radar. I mean, of course it sounds busted to Child's Wish out Kaba, which this deck took everyone by surprise in that format and absolutely devastated, which is really cool to see. I mean, the typical objective of the deck is to Child's Wish out your Sanseam or Kaba. A lot of these builds don't actually even charge green, so you have to see your Kaba and your Child's Wish in order to get your play started, which even in Shenron, where you draw a crazy amount, not seeing that 2-card combo can be really, really troublesome. But when you do see it, which is still relatively consistent, you spam 3 attackers every single turn you drop a Kava, and you just combo the Kava away, Child's Wish it out again for free, and not even paying energy. So you have an aggro deck that just puts out a crazy amount of attackers, and you do it for free. You do it without even paying energy, so your energy can be used to drop more attackers, or play some defense on your opponent's turn when you have to try and survive. So that gets really, really insane really, really fast. You overwhelm your opponent, you swarm them out. A lot of your Kaba gets you cards, your Khalifas get you cards, and your Kales get you cards. So you're constantly just plussing and doing insane things, which is really nuts. However, this deck can die to a Kami. I mean, you just lose your entire board presence, and it doesn't matter how many cards you have in your hand at that point, because if your Kaba has filtered through your entire deck of attackers, you're not really gonna be able to apply any pressure, which is gonna be kind of unfortunate. So this deck is at the number 2 spot for that reason. It did win Latin American Nationals, but it hasn't really done anything since then. I mean, it didn't really do anything at the American Nationals. It hasn't done anything at any of the smaller events that have popped up as of late, as far as I'm aware. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments below, but as far as I know, that this deck hasn't been doing too much lately, and I still think it's an insane deck. I don't know why, it seems like Americans just don't want to play this deck. At the number 1 spot, we do have Shenron Hand Control. So that's like your Super 17 at your top end. You've got your Burst Attack Gohan to refuel your hand after discarding off Super 17, and you play like 3 1-star balls to really make your opponent lose cards early on in the game. So this build actually is just nuts. I mean, getting the right hand in this deck, it can be so oppressive, right, against certain decks, especially aggro decks. Has a pretty good aggro matchup, and it's got really good control matchups because they can't get to their plays. I mean, you just discard their hands. Imagine going against Gogeta 7, you discard their fusion pieces, you make them have to discard their Gogetas, make them have to discard their objections. They're only playing 3 or 4 cards in hand so early on, and they have to make really miserable charges. It gets really insane, really fast, really overwhelming. And this deck actually did just make top cut at the Orlando 5K. Which is one of the more recent events in a little while since Nationals, and it's probably the lowest to the ground Shenron deck you can play next to Shenron Veggies, although it has more of a devastating game plan, just not letting your opponent realistically play the game because you're just constantly ditching their hand, and then you're going to give triple attack to an unnegatable swinger, which is Super 17, so you're going to deal 6 damage, and that's really realistic to win the game with, especially when you're dropping Burst Attack Gohans and smaller crit pressure like that. So that's why, in my opinion, that Shenron Hand Control is at the number 1 spot in the current format pre-Clash of Fates. So now let's talk about post Clash of Fates with the new aggro hate cards coming out. So in the prior list, I have Shenron Veggies at the number 2 spot. I think that's going to fall down to the number 4 spot after this new set comes out, because we do have a lot of hate cards coming out for this. I mean, we've got the 2-drop blue Goku coming out, which hinders a lot of your attackers, right? You can't swing with your green Khalifas, you can't swing with your Kales that draw you cards, you can't swing with your Kabas. You get hindered a lot in the deck. I mean, you can still swing with your 4-drop beaters, your 4-drop Khalifas, and your 3-drop Kabas, but those aren't necessarily the cards that get you advantage when they swing. Your 2-drop Kale is your real big workhorse. I mean, that's just constantly swinging and getting you cards. So not being able to swing with that is going to be a big hindrance to this deck. That's going to be a really big problem for this deck. So I do think that this deck is going to fall once Clash of Fates comes out. Now that moves Shenron Gogeta out of the 4 spot, but we'll talk about it in a second. I think the at all costs blue, yellow, child's wish strategies will still remain number 3. I mean, you're just doing a really consistent thing. You're playing low to the ground. You're playing at all costs at your top end, giving it triple attack, giving it triple strike, and you're hitting battering laser to try and just break through your opponent's negates. So I think this deck will stay relatively consistent at the 3 spot. Now we have to talk about the 1 and the 2 spot. In my opinion, as far as Shenron builds go, I think, and I could be completely wrong, could be absolutely completely wrong, I think that Gogeta 7 Shenron is going to be at the number 2 spot, and that Shenron hand control is going to be at the number 1 spot. Now hear me out. Shenron Gogeta will beat out any other mid-range control matchup easily. I mean, it just does its thing the fastest, it controls the game the fastest, and it does what it does, and it's so oppressive and so insane. I mean, you look at like anything, like any CBL deck, doesn't matter. Any mono blue Hurdigarn deck, it realistically doesn't matter because Shenron's going to drop Gogeta before any of those decks can drop it. I mean, it still does one of the most busted things you could do in this game, which is drop Gogeta 7. However, looking at this from a Shenron on Shenron matchup perspective, I do think that Shenron hand control has a better matchup against Shenron Gogeta 7. What I mean by that is, you know, Gogeta 7 does do hand control, but you know, the earliest it will do that is turn 4. And that's like in a perfect world. A lot of times you're dropping Gogeta 7 on turn 5 or 6, maybe even turn 7 if you got unlucky enough, where Shenron hand control is a tad bit more consistent because your starter discard cards are just Dragon Balls that you search for the leader, right? So making your opponent have to play on like 3 cards in hand, 4 cards in hand that early on is devastating, especially in a Gogeta 7 deck where you have to make really awkward charges. You either have to ditch your combo pieces, ditch your fusion pieces, ditch your Gogetas, ditch your objections, or charge any of those said things because you're playing with such a low hand and you do have to charge every single turn. So that can just be really devastating. I mean, I think that the Shenron hand control matchup going against the Shenron Gogeta matchup, I think the Shenron hand control matchup wins like 9 times out of 10 because it's just so oppressive in that manner. You know, you really hurt the combo decks, which is, I mean, you know, it's a good and a bad thing. This deck is super oppressive in my opinion, the Shenron hand control deck, but it does beat out one of the other oppressive combo decks, which is Gogeta 7. So that's just my opinion on that. Even though Gogeta 7 is absolutely broken, if you face this against any other control mid-range matchup, you are most likely going to lose. But if the Gogeta 7 decks do happen to come across the Dragon Ball hand control decks, it's going to be a really bad time for them. So what does that mean for Shenron hand control? I mean, it's another crazy deck. I mean, you know, the Shenron decks have such a high ceiling that it gets kind of out of control at some points where you just have this crazy hand control coming down on you as early as, you know, turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it can be pretty impressive, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully in the future, Bandai prints some cards that hate on hand control because hand control can be really impressive, especially in this game where card advantage is everything. So you have cards that like kind of just bypass resource management. It becomes a lot less fun. But I mean, the format remains to be seen post Clash of Fates. I mean, this is all speculation. This is all my opinion. Take it as you will. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. I'm actually really interested to know what you guys think the format will shape up to be after Clash of Fates drops. Those are just my opinions. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Joey. This is Crossroad TCG. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.